Welcome back to DIY Crafts and Hacks. Today I'm making some baby things for a friend of mine who is expecting. I'm using supplies that are in my stash. I've used some flannel fabric to make some swaddle blankets, and I've just serged the edge and rounded the corners. And now I'm making some burp cloths to coordinate with them. So we'll walk through how we're doing that. So let's talk fabrics. So I'm using a lot of fat quarters from my stash. A fat quarter is a 1/4 yard, but it is cut so that it is approximately 18 by 22 inches. I also am going to use some terry cloth here that matches. You can also use flannel like I've done on this one. You can also cut a towel if you have a towel. I could have used a white towel for this to put on the back. I think that these fabrics work very well for when the baby burps. It's very absorbent. Additionally, I'm going to need a few pins, and I'm going to use a ruler and rotary cutter, but you could certainly use scissors, and you could certainly draw a line to cut it out. So I'm going to cut my blue fabric so that it is 18 by 22 to match my fat quarter. And then I am going to slice it down the middle here so that I get 2 from this piece of fabric. Let's get cutting. Cutting all 4 sides. Then I'll check a measurement just to make sure this is somewhat square. I'll cut all the way through. So let's see, down here, it's about 21.5 inches, 21 3/4, and up here it's the same. So I'm going to cut at approximately my midway mark, which is right about here. So now, my blade must be getting dull. Okay, now I have what's gonna be 2 burp cloths. I have the right sides of my fabric together. I'm just gonna put in 2 or 3 pins so that my fabric stays in place. And I am gonna take this to the sewing machine. I'm gonna start over here. At one corner, I'm going to sew all the way down and around 3 sides, and then I'm only going to sew halfway up the 4th side here on the end. I'll do that with both pieces, and then the next step will be to turn them right sides out. This is a super simple project, and if you know any moms or families with little babies, you know they're going to go through a lot of these, so it's nice to have a whole bunch so you're not doing laundry all the time. So as we just said, I've come over to the machine. My machine's all threaded. I have it set for a straight stitch, and I am going to just sew down and around the 3 sides and then stop halfway up the 4th side. And this will go really fast. If your machine has a function that lets you leave the needle down, that's very helpful when you come to a corner, as you can simply pivot like this. And I didn't put in enough pins because this is sliding around a little bit. You might want to put an extra pin or 2. You can see my needle stopped down, and I can easily pivot. Do the 3rd side. As you can see, I've been taking the pins out as I sew. I do not like to sew over pins. It's not good for your machine. All right, and here I'm just going to sew a couple inches, and then I'm going to stop, leaving half of the 4th side open. And there we go. Now I'm going to trim the edges so that the seam is narrower. And then I'm going to turn it right side out. Now that I've turned this right side out, I'm going to take this over to the ironing board and I am going to iron under this raw edge. Then I will go back to the sewing machine and basically sew about 1/4 inch all the way around, and I will catch this seam to close this opening. I'm now going to start sewing at one of the corners where the open edge is. I'm going to basically pick a spot on the edge of my foot here. I'm using a walking foot. And that position, I will keep the edge of the cloth in as I sew. And I will sew all the way around all 4 corners. This is really a quick project and it's going to be such a surprise for her. She has no idea I'm doing this, and I'll deliver it before this video is posted. I am going to backstitch just to lock the stitches. All right, and then I will clip these little threads. All right. The last thing that I do is I am going to fold this in thirds and then stitch a line down just to lock the fabrics in place, so when it's washed several times, it won't come apart. Let me show you that. So here is the burp cloth. It's all stitched around 4 sides. I'm now going to fold it in thirds. Just check this before I put my pins in. That looks good to me. So now I'm just going to insert a pin, which is going to mark basically where my line is. I'm just going to eyeball it. So I'm going to sew a seam line there, straight down, and I'm going to sew a seam line here so that this will have, you can see it on this one. So you can see the white stitching. Maybe if it's up close, you can see the white stitching that just divided it into thirds. It just makes it a little nice for folding and will hold those layers in place when it's washed multiple times. All right, so I finished sewing around both burp cloths. I also sewed down a straight line to divide this into thirds, and now they are done. I'm just going to fold them in thirds. And then I'm going to use some pretty ribbon to just tie them. Again, this is a gift, so I just want to kind of make it look a little pretty. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please click subscribe and hit that bell icon so that you don't miss any future videos. Thank you and have a great day. Thanks for watching.